I am Ray, and once you realize that nothing's real, that's when everything changes. Obviously, because, well, it's a much different story living like a normal human being versus living like abnormal human being. So before we send you into an existential crisis, we just have to cover a few things. And well, one of those things is coming to the realization that there are only two things, I don't have two fingers over on that hand, two things that exist from the moment you're born until the moment you die. What could these two things be, you may ask? Because it seems like there's a lot of things going on. So we're breaking through illusions today. There's two things that exist. Number one, there's change. As they say, the only constant in life is change. Well, they were wrong, but you get the idea. Everything from the moment you're born until the moment you die is a changing experience. You're in the womb. That is a changing experience. And then you're born. Another changing experience. And then you grow up. And one day, you fall asleep. And you go into the dream state. And there, too, you will find another infinite array of changing experiences. And then lastly, when you go to deep sleep, is that not, too, another changing experience? Well, yeah, because then you wake up, more changing experiences. If you can see with your own two eyeballs that everything is changing experiences, it fundamentally flips the way you see the world. Because you realize that every human being that you've ever known, and that most you will ever know, is so busy labeling and judging and identifying with their changing experiences that they don't realize that they themselves are too a changing experience. What does that mean? It means I look at my body, I look at this human monkey meat suit, and I say, yes, this is me. Somebody answers the phone, yes, this is me, monkey. But the body is a changing experience. Your mind is a changing experience. Your personality is a changing experience. So what are you? Answer me this. You know for a fact a few things true. You don't just have to believe what I'm saying. First thing is that everything is changing. There's always changing experiences everywhere. And the second thing is, well, you are there. Through every moment in your life, you are the common denominator. You are present during waking states, dream states, and the deep sleep state. You are there. So what are you? Well, you can only be one thing. You are the unchanging. And this is mathematically accurate, because these are opposites. Change, unchange, polarity, duality. Now, just to clarify, because I'm trying to use reason to make a point here. You see with your own eyeballs that everything is changing, and you see also that if everything is changing from the moment you're born until the moment you die, and you're the common denominator, and you're the constant underneath all of those experiences, well, guess what? The one thing in your life that has not changed is you. You're there the whole time. Now, if you can understand and accept this, which is not too crazy, although it may take some time to really think about it, well, the next thing you discover is that what is unchanging is eternal, by definition. What is unchanging cannot change, meaning it cannot grow, it cannot evolve, it cannot shrink, cannot change at all, cannot move a single moment. It's pure stillness. And so as you dive deeper into this realization, eventually you lose the fear of death. And this is like the whole spiritual awakening thing. Because once you realize yourself as the eternal, well, what is there to fear anymore? Nothing. Because the true nature of what you are is beyond all experiences. Your changing experiences cannot affect you. Do you see? I'm trying to spell. Your changing experiences cannot affect you at all. They cannot change you. They cannot do anything to you. They have no influence over you. But why don't we experience life like this? It's because we identify with a changing experience. And changing experiences can change each other. They're changing. And because we identify with our changing experiences, we are influenced by the experiences of the world. And that is kind of what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the first teachings of Jnana Yoga, which is the path of knowledge. Krishna kind of just said, hey, look, Arjuna, buddy, I know you don't want to kill all your friends and family, but they're already dead. And the fact is that your whole life is an illusion. You don't know what you're talking about. These are all eternal souls anyway. You can't do anything to them. So just do your job, for Christ's sake. The point is like, we suffer because we do not realize that we are an eternal soul. But we identify through ignorance and illusion with our changing experiences, our body, our mind. So, if you've ever watched The Matrix, now you understand what they were talking about. We've spent our whole lives believing life was one way, right? Just assuming. And why would we ever assume different? Everyone else is in the same boat. So we kind of just, that's life. Never question it until you get some crazy people that eventually question it. And you come to a new realization. A new realization. And you can see yourself moving forward as you go throughout your changing experiences. You'll see yourself judging them and labeling them as good or bad, as right or wrong, as beneficial to your life, or something that's a roadblock to what you want. And we're doing this all the time to all the billions of variables that exist in our reality. And most everything is just neutral, so it doesn't mean anything to us. And what that experience is, it's the roller coaster of life. Ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. You really, really want the ups. You want the good times. You want the good stuff. You have all of these desires that you want. And then you go over. No, I don't want to go down. I don't want to go down. No. And then you fall down. You're like, this sucks. I don't like this. I want to go up, 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 up. And then you start going up. And you're like, yes, I like going up. And then you go back down. No, not again. Forever. For all eternity. Because you're attached to your changing experiences. They're literally pulling you all over the place because of your identification with them. And in the realization that it's all just changing experiences, you begin to really look at, what is real? What is true? If I've been living my whole life in ignorance, then what is the truth? Please tell me. The truth you will discover is this, that you are not a changing experience, but that you are the everlasting, silent awareness behind your experiences. You're the watcher of the things. There are objects of your experience, and there is the subject, you, they're experiencing. So we're entering into the most subtle, fundamental layers of existence. Whereas everyone else is vibing in the world of 10,000 things, we're getting down to the realm of two things. 10,000 all the way to number 2. And then we'll go to number 1, because that's the best. I just had the realization this morning that what this was, and what life is. If you've ever heard of Hinduism, you know exactly what this means. That this is the dance between Mr. Shiva and Shakti. Yeah, boy. The masculine and the feminine. The two elements of God. And we have to learn how to merge them together. To be in perfect harmony. Like this. Like this. That is divine union. And this is the game that spiritual people play. The spiritual game. Because what you do, essentially, is, how much do you recognize your true nature? And you recognize your true nature by how much you embody it. Not by how much you think about it or philosophize about it. Like, you can know this psychologically or intellectually, but it doesn't mean you know it or understand it, let's say. So the question is, how much can you be in the world but not of the world? How much can you be rooted in stillness and silence and emptiness while at the same time being fully immersed in the storms of life? How much do you remain at peace when things are going crazy? Because Shakti, the feminine element, is both the nurturing aspect of life and also the chaotic destruction. It's like Mother Nature. Mother Nature isn't always nice. So as the eternal unchanging, are you able to sit with that power without needing it to change? And perhaps this setup is a little bit different for women because Well, Shakti's the feminine element, Shiva's the masculine. But both are equal in value. So as a woman, you might be perfectly fine being the chaos, being the storm. And that's your role. That's your, duty. Whereas the masculine might try more to be unshakable, like a big rock. This is literally the, what do they call it? This is the immovable object. This is the unstoppable force. They go together. They're the same thing. It's just they're expressed in different ways. This is the external expression of this. And this is the internal expression of that. Two peas in a pod. Which leads us to the idea that, oh, wait a minute, there's really only one. There's not two, because these are the same thing. They're just two opposites, equal in value, opposite in degree. You know what's opposite in degree? This weed whacker. I'm gonna go whack him with my weed. Almost fell. And together, this is one great dance called life. It's life. That is what this is. Look, I almost even did the infinity sign like this. Yeah. Once your life becomes simplified like this, everything becomes so much more clear. Because without all the 10,000 distractions of the world, you're not looking so much at the details of things, but at the fundamental layer of existence. It's a much more powerful state to be in, because you're aligned with a higher truth. There's billions of things to know in this life. So you could go spend your whole life learning knowledge about a billion different things, but there's only a very few things we need to understand. So it's the difference between going into the world of 10,000 things and doing your thing forever versus breaking free from that illusion permanently. And she will test you. And you see actual women do this. The feminine will test the masculine to see how unshakable he is. And you have two options, maybe more. It's like Mother Nature has two jobs, kind of. She is here to destroy the weak men, to rid the world of their genes, so they can't reproduce and they don't have offspring that are also losers. That's what she does. She makes sure that doesn't happen. Because, well, if some evil dictator got into power, they're going to ruin everything. So she's got to kill the weak men. But the men who can remain unshakable, who are true, then she nurtures that masculinity and gives and serves because he is worthy. He is worthy of receiving Shakti. And that is when the marriage happens. The love. So you imagine life like a big storm. And the question is, how much do you get caught in that storm? And how much can you remain the eye of the storm? And on this journey, we'll get pulled into the storm. That's normal. Like a jellyfish, normal. Jellyfish are, in fact, not normal. Very strange creatures. The point I'm trying to make. I don't even know. What a great day. But I think truly, this is about connecting deep to both aspects within ourselves. Not necessarily just embodying one or the other. Because you don't want to just be in stillness and in peace and in silence while life is happening. It's like spending all of your life in meditation. That's easy. It's easy to go into the woods and live out your days in meditation, away from the world. I mean, if you're really serious about the spiritual path. But a better spiritual way is, well, it's like, can you meditate in the middle of a busy city, town? Chaos all around you, bombs falling from the sky. Can you remain unfazed then? That is the game. Now, when the illusions begin to fall away, you'll stop identifying with the body-mind, and you'll stop seeing only the ego in others as well. Because how we're currently living our life, we're a little ego experiencing other little egos, and that is how we live our life. But as we know, ego is a changing experience. Now, if you don't know exactly what ego means, ego is just identity. There's a lot of different, interpretations of the word. Like someone with a big ego is someone with a lot of pride. But more fundamentally, it's a heightened sense of identity. So ego is identity. And identity is the source from which your reality stems. So whoever you are, whoever you believe that you are, that is how your life will manifest itself. Now, if you haven't been exposed to spiritual ideas before, this is pretty radical. Because what I'm saying is that you can change your life to be however you want it to be. Now, you can do this in bad ways, on accident, or you can do it in good ways. But your reality, the one that you experience right now, is nothing more than a reflection of who you have been. That's all it is. Your current reality is a reflection of, well, first of all, your beliefs, and especially your assumptions. I forgot to finish the word, and it says, but. Now, it's more nuanced to this. You got to realize that I simplify a lot of these things because, well, it takes forever to go through every single detail and every nuance to try and be totally 100% completely accurate. It's good enough. For all intents and purposes, we believe our reality into existence. Now, to normal people, they got no idea what I'm talking about. But if they did, they wouldn't be living such poopy lives. I promise. So, for example, I always use the same example almost every video about money. So check this out. You're living your life right now. And if you're like anybody else, you got a job or you have to work or maybe you're homeless. But you got to work to make a living, no? Now, whether or not you're successful in this area is determined by your assumptions and your beliefs. And that's all it is. That's all it is. It doesn't matter what you do for work. It doesn't matter what, vehicle you're in as an entrepreneur. Now, of course, it does matter. But the point I'm trying to make is that's all secondary stuff. So, you're going to have some kind of assumption, some kind of belief about money. And that's going to shape the way you experience reality. And you have to tackle those beliefs and those assumptions if you want to change it. And those beliefs and those assumptions are a part of who you believe you are. And who you believe you are is based off, your life experiences. So if you assume that money's really hard to make, that's how it's going to be for you. If you're like really desperate for a promotion and you want more money, the more you worry about it, the more you have fear, the more it's not going to happen. Because by being afraid, being nervous around money, being anxious around money, trying so hard to save, trying so hard to control it, trying to look, coupon, clip, whatever you do. These are all expressions of your underlying identity. Now, if those assumptions and those beliefs have lack and scarcity in them, your outer reality will manifest as lack and scarcity. And there's nothing you can do. You could be in the best job in the whole world. If your energy is coming off from lack and scarcity, you will always be broke and struggling. And the moment you flip this to be the opposite, you identify with abundance, you could say, then effortless abundance enters into your life. And you have to realize that this is a fundamentally countercultural paradigm of living your life. Because, at least in the West, they tell us to grind. You want some money, you work hard for it. You work hard and you grind, and you keep grinding until you finally get what you want. But all that grinding does is it just changes who you are, and it changes your beliefs, and it changes your assumptions, and that's why your reality changes. The point of this is like, imagine how your reality manifests itself when you realize that you are the eternal. What kind of reality does that look like? What kind of assumptions now do you have? What kind of beliefs do you have? And what you will discover, you will, over time, dive deeper into God mode. Just think about what is eternal for a moment. Eternal is forever. And that implies infinite abundance. There's infinite of it, which means that your true nature is not only eternal, but it's also infinite abundance. You see, when you identify with your changing experiences, essentially you're living from animalistic consciousness. Now, I'm not calling you stupid. It's just the predicament that we're in. We live in these human bodies. Now, if your consciousness is trapped in the body, you will be a slave to your animal instincts, and you will be a slave to your senses, meaning you will be a slave to your outer environment, your circumstances. So whatever happens to you in this life, it will pull you around and disturb you and create suffering. And you're always going to be on this hamster wheel trying to get off. There's no off. There's no finish line. It's forever. So you cannot afford to wait until your reality changes. You have to change first, or else nothing will change. And I promise you, people stay stuck for decades and their whole lives because they don't know this kind of stuff. They don't think about it. It's not even so far beyond their comprehension of the nature of reality that even if they heard it, it would not make any sense. Because that is what it means to have your consciousness stuck in the animal body. All it knows is animal things. It knows when I'm in pain, I want to run away. And when I'm in pleasure, I want more of that. I want to survive. I want to live. But we have to understand that we have evolved as human beings to be conservative. Negativity is the default. Chaos is the default for humans, for animals. That is why you see all animals are in fight or flight. Like a cat. You ever see a cat? Scaredy cat. That's why they call them scaredy cats. Because you move and they're like... They freak out because they're in survival. Or what about a mouse? You look at a mouse, what are they doing? They're always running away. Or any kind of bug. Bugs are just running away. Haven't you seen a bug's life? And so long as our consciousness is stuck in the animal body, we won't be able to help but be afraid and worried about the information that is being received by our senses. And when times are good, you'll feel good, and when times are bad, you'll feel bad, up and down and up and down and up and down all your life, for all eternity. And there's never any escape until you realize that you are not your body. We assume that is who we are, and we believe it into existence. We have to free our soul from this prison. And when you identify with the soul, not the body, not the mind, there is freedom. So, for example, in my life, it doesn't matter what happens, I currently experience infinite abundance. Now, it wasn't always this way, obviously, but this is what happens when your reality shifts. You see, for a normal person, the money example is so good, what are they going to do? They're going to be thinking about, okay, what do I need to do today? What's the next thing? What's going to move the needle forward? What is my next goal? What do I need in order to achieve my goals? How much do I need to work? How much money do I need to make? 10,000 things to do. A to-do list of 10,000. And once you finish that to-do list, guess what? Another to-do list of 10,000. But for me, guess what? There's only two. Only two things in my experience. Because I no longer have my consciousness attached to my body or my mind, of course, I give myself like 5% leeway. Meaning I can only be 95% accurate, okay? Leave me alone. I'm not trying to pretend like I'm some mega star or something like that. Even though I am. I'm just human. Monkey and God in one. I do not really think or concern myself with the nature of getting money, doing things to get. But what do I do instead? I assume infinite abundance, and that is all. So all the 10,000 things of the details and the processes, the techniques, the tactics of getting what I want, it's all irrelevant because it's all distractions. It's all just changing experiences. It's all just stuff. Life is just dust. But guess what? We give dust meaning. And for thousands of years, conquerors and kings have been collecting bigger piles of dust to say, I'm a bigger king and conqueror than you, and better than you, because I have more dust. But they are just the biggest losers. That's all. Because they were fooled into believing that the material existence is real. And the true nature of reality is dust. Like in 1,000 years, or 1,000,000 years, the chances of our existence as human beings being completely wiped out as if we never existed at all is pretty high. The great human race reduced to ashes. And it's going to happen eventually. What are you going to prevent extinction? We're already extinct. The universe is already dead. Because that is the nature of change. Change is death, by definition. Because something comes, exists for a short time, and then goes away. That is death. But what is life? Life is unchanging. Life is eternal. And now you can begin to see, if you've, experienced Christianity at all, what Jesus was saying. How could Jesus resurrect himself from the dead? Of course, modern people don't believe that. At least some of them. And the Christians are just going to say, well, he was God, so he could do what he wants. But this is the underlying explanation of why and how he did this. Because when you're the life itself, when you understand your true nature and your true identity, death does not touch you. Death cannot, because you are the life itself. And also, the darkness has no power over you, because you are the light itself. I'm showing you how to become like Jesus and see the things that he saw. And stop seeing the things like the disciples, who were so stuck in their egos and their ignorance that they just couldn't fully grasp who Jesus was. They knew he was special. And eventually, of course, Jesus rubbed off on them. They became special in their own ways. But think about what it's like to live in infinite abundance. I could go to zero tomorrow, and maybe my animalistic instincts might flare up for a moment, and there might be worry or there might be fear. But because psychologically there's no identification with form, that fear, that worry cannot sustain itself. Because when you're immersed in infinite abundance, lack and scarcity means nothing. You cannot be in abundance and in scarcity at the same time. In the same way, when you're immersed in the light of God, what is there to fear of this world? You see, you got the Matrix and the overlords, the reptilians. What power do they have? What power does any evil have in this world? It has no power. But because people don't understand their power, they give their power away freely. And the evil people take advantage of that and abuse them. Because the price of ignorance is slavery and death. Those who do not know their power have no power. So the whole game that's been going on since the beginning of eternity, that doesn't make any sense, is this battle between good and evil. And more particularly, ignorance and truth. So we are born into ignorance. And we're just like flopping around like floppy fish, trying to figure it all out. And, well, evil people who take advantage of the ignorant rise to power, because evil people are highly motivated. They control the world. Everyone else is stuck in it. This net, this trap, this illusion. And life allows this to happen because it's the natural way of things. The evil is always trying to consume and take control over everything. And you get, silly sometimes trying to fight the darkness. It's like, don't waste your time trying to fight the system, fight the matrix, fight the darkness. Screw it all. Stop trying to fight the demons and the Satan. Like, we get this identity around being some kind of hero, this moral savior. And guess what? The evil is going to come along and say, you thought. Because if you're not completely rooted in the light, you are vulnerable to being destroyed. If you try to fight as a human being as less, then the ultimate truth, that is why you see people die, get killed, suicided in the back of the head. The evil's just going to say, oh yeah, screw you, you're nothing. Trying to step up. Don't fight the evil. Don't fight the darkness. Forget about it. Don't get all high and mighty, Spider-Man. Just go toward the light. Because until you are fully immersed in the light, darkness is going to try and get you and squeeze your butt. And it will affect you. It will get you. If you're not fully grounded in stillness, in presence, in the eternal. Think about the difference between, in Jesus' day, apparently a lot of people try to come as the Messiah. Other people, lesser false prophets, right? But you don't know any of them, right? Why is that? Because all the other false prophets who tried to think they were something were destroyed effortlessly. Because they were just living from animalistic consciousness. But why do you remember Jesus? Because his consciousness was the light. It was pure, unconditioned, unpolluted by anything. And therefore, he had absolute power and dominion over the nature of reality. Like, he could stop the weather or start the weather. He could heal anybody of anything. He could heal people of death. Can you believe it? I cannot believe it. And how did he do that? Well, because when you're the life, death has no power. You just take your little finger and put it on somebody's forehead. And alive. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you're gonna be able to do that, but you have that potential. You can. It's possible. But it won't be possible so long as your assumptions and your beliefs are opposite of that. Like, the more certain you are that you have the power to heal, the more that will come into fruition. And the more you think it's nonsense, the more it will be nonsense to you. And you won't understand it, because you're believing these realities into existence through your thoughts alone. The data is received, the information is received from the outer world, and that is where we make our assumptions of. The evidence that we experience. But people who are too realists, they too are a slave to their outer circumstances. Because the only things that they believe is true are the things that present themselves to be true, based off the evidence. And you completely miss the whole other half of reality that is subjective. There's two halves of reality. There's the objective changing experiences, and there's the subjective you. And science has to reckon with the placebo effect that says, well, there is this objective reality. We can test it, we can measure it, generally speaking. But every once in a while, you can kind of just believe whatever you want into existence. And the more certain you are of that belief, the more it will be true. And they're kind of coming to this with the quantum physics and stuff like that, coming to this realization that your consciousness has fundamental changes. Or should I say, the consciousness that you are is able to affect reality at the quantum level. Because the quantum consciousness is the same as the consciousness that you are. It's all the same one stuff. It's all the same one reality. So of course you as the consciousness can affect physical reality because you are physical reality. You are all the changing experiences and you are the unchanging. There is no separation, there is only one. It's like Neo in the Matrix when he was trying to bend the spoon. The little Buddhist monk boy, he said, don't try to bend the spoon because that's impossible. Too literal, too much living from your senses, too much analytic consciousness. You won't be able to do it. But when you realize that there is no spoon because you've tapped into the true nature of reality, now it's possible. The spoon bends all by itself because you are the spoon. Congratulations, you've made it. You are a spoon. The final level. You enter into God mode because you realize that you have all the power and that nothing in existence has any power over you. It's just that you judge your changing experiences and give those changing experiences power over you, the unchanging. So this is about reclaiming your power, returning back to source, the source of what you are, and becoming free from the illusion, the net of Maya, samsara. You see, I've got let's say 3 main themes on this channel. So first of all, there's the mental health stuff, because that's a very important part of our life. We need to have good mental health. We want to be able to learn how to manage our negative thoughts, to become free from depression and addictions and anxiety and stuff like that, so that we have less of our consciousness stuck in the animal body or in the mind. Because if you're thinking about negative thoughts all the time, guess where your consciousness is going? It's draining into this black hole within you. And because consciousness is life itself, when that consciousness is being extracted and used like being a battery in the matrix, you lose your life force. And then you die. And that is what the system does to people. It just meat grinds them away into a big tasty burger. That's what samsara is. It's a big meat grinder of death. So I help you with your mental health so that you can have some relief and you're not suffering so much. And then the second kind of element is this enlightenment stuff. Like, you want to become free from the illusions so that you can become free from suffering, so that you can fulfill your highest purpose in this existence, which a lot of the great spiritual teachers, they say is God realization. And through this we experience freedom and relief from suffering and enter into a new paradigm of reality. And the third thing is, well, living from this state and then consciously creating our reality through our assumptions and through our beliefs. and through where we point our mind. Because let's say just you got negative thoughts, as most people do, some worse than others. But what is it that you're going to be creating if you're dealing with negative thoughts all the time? You have no freed up resources to create any reality that you want. You're so busy suffering, you're just trying to survive. And maybe, let's say you're not suffering so much, and you do the whole manifestation thing from just a human perspective. Maybe you are exposed to esoteric and occult knowledge, and you can create a lot of things from that place. But what happens when you tie all of these things together? You become free, your mental health is good. Not only that, but you've realized God. And now from your God state, you use your God power to create things, shape reality, have fun, and play with it. Because it's a dance between you and God. It's really just a dance of God itself, but we experience it as you and God. And once you simplify life like this, it's just so much easier. And to be honest, you don't even necessarily need to be so certain that you're the eternal spirit of God. You can literally just have a relationship with God and surrender everything. It's the same thing. Because obviously sometimes, believing that you're eternal is kind of hard to believe. But you can achieve the same outcome just by communicating with God. And imagine that, you're like a little baby in a candy store. And God is like your parent who's a billionaire. You could buy the whole store if you wanted. So you just go around in life saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. And sometimes God says, well, not yet. Or God says, well, not in the way you think. Or God says, in divine timing. And we learn to trust that. Because we don't want to be forcing things that aren't meant to be forced. We want to allow what is rightfully ours to come to us and stop sabotaging it. And this is why God is the cheat code of life. Because well, God is infinite abundance. You can just say, hey, God, this is what I want. And as Jesus said, when you pray, pray as if it has already been given to you. And that is the law of assumption. You assume that whatever it is that you want is already yours. And when you live your life from that assumption, magic starts to happen. But guess what? If you're stuck in animalistic consciousness, all of those fears, all of those worries, all of those the forces of resistance will come to distract you from your path and interfere with your energy. Like, I really want to be living in abundance, but then the fear and the worry, it's giving off mixed signals. And that is why people have a hard time, for instance, sometimes living in abundance or attracting what they want. Because their energy fluctuates. They're allowing the negativity and the lack and scarcity sometimes, and they're allowing the abundance sometimes. Has to be 100%. You got to be focused, congruent, 100% belief. Not only just about getting things you want, because that's just it's a little silly, but assuming reality itself. You create the reality that you want to experience with your mind, and you are not subject to be forced to do anything. You don't have to live the life that you're currently living. You can live any life that you want. But if you want to live any life that you want, you have to assume it into existence. And the more clear you get on your true identity, your true place as the eternal, the more certain you become at being able to believe whatever you want into existence. Now, you can also use your imagination to do this, but I like the law of assumption because you can just assume whatever, and you're not attached to the outcomes. So you can allow whatever it is that's meant for you to be received, but you're not so picky about it. You're not so detailed, like it's got to be this way. And over time, the fear and the worry and the conditioning begins to fall away, and it stops keeping you stuck. You're removing your consciousness from this body prison, from this mind prison, and channeling it upward, back to source, back to God, back to spirit. And consciousness is directed by where you point your mind. As it is said, where attention goes, energy flows. So all you got to do is focus your mind on the highest possible thing that you can imagine, which is always God. But, of course, God means something different to everybody. So you gotta learn how to take your mind and stop getting distracted by the world of 10,000 things and focus on the few things that actually matter. You want to overcome the conditioning, the trauma, that which keeps you stuck in lower states of consciousness. That's what's keeping you from realizing the truth. It's like you're covered in mud and you gotta wiggle it off. Get all that mud off of you. Dirty. You're so dirty. And the more clean you become, the more you experience inner purification, the more you become one with God. And God simply pervades your life. It's just you and God. You and God are the majority. So you stop taking things so personally because you're no longer so attached to your personality. You begin seeing how everyone is essentially a divine incarnation of God. Everything is. And you're not so prejudiced, and you're not so much judging others, and you're not so much judging yourself, and you're just living, you're just being alive. And you stop worrying, and you stop being afraid, and you stop ruminating so much on the future and the past, and judging your current experiences. But you live life from a state of freedom, a state of abundance. And it's really just continuously realizing that there is nothing in this life that can enslave you. But we believe ourselves into slavery. As I like to say, the only prison in existence is your own mind. That is the matrix. And you are the prisoner and you are the jailer. And you can let yourself out at any moment simply by realizing that you are already free. The door was never locked. But we believed it to be locked, and so that is what we experienced. Just the same, like infinite abundance, you already have access to it. But because you don't believe you have access to it, you don't. It's like Muji, the spiritual teacher, used to talk about this story where, a man came into a lot of money. And he told his best friend, he said, look, my wife, she likes to spend money, so I've got to hide it from her. And when I pass, because he was sick or something, give her the money. So time passed. And, his friend went on to a long vacation, came back a few years later, and he found the man's wife and his son living on the streets. He went to go talk to the woman. And he talked for a moment and he said, well, I remember you, yeah. What happened to my friend? And the lady says, well, my husband died. And now we're broke, we have no money, we're living on the streets, we gotta beg for food. And the man said, oh, I got good news. Your husband left you money. So they went back to where the money was buried, dug it up. Look at all this treasure. Now, the question is, the money was always hers, but was she rich? That is you, my friend. Every morning you get up to go to work, you've already had a big bag full of cash underneath your bed. But you didn't know it was there, so you didn't have access to it. So you're not rich. You're living in lack and scarcity. Every single person you meet is a beggar. That is what I see. Beggars everywhere. Desperate. Lack and scarcity. Living in ignorance. Believing that there's such thing as, well, just look at how people talk. You can see very clearly how much everybody's living in lack and scarcity. And now you know why. It's because when they speak the words into existence. The words are expressions of their assumptions and their beliefs and their identity. And that is why they're living in lack and scarcity. It's because that's all they reaffirm. Because they're living as a slave to their senses that says, you're living in lack and scarcity. And then they say, okay. They're at the effect of the reality, not the cause. Again, if you don't know your power, you have none. If you don't know your abundance, you have none. You don't have to live in that world that everyone else is living in, because everyone is trapped. And you don't want to be trapped. You want to be free, but you kind of have to make this a priority in your life. Otherwise, you're just going to be caught up in the monotonous daily tasks. The world of 10,000 things is just going to sweep you away. You have to live intentionally. An intentional life, you can't just drift and pretend that everything's going to be okay. Unless, of course, you have God in your life, well, then everything's going to be okay no matter what. Because you understand clearly, you have certainty that God is taking care of you. And you have certainty, well, because that's the evidence that you receive. We only believe things based off the evidence we receive. Which you want to use that when it's there, but you don't want to be a slave to that. You want to learn how to change your identity from your imagination, from your thoughts alone, and not have to ping off the environment and think, oh, am I living in abundance yet? Am I living in abundance yet? Trying to look for all the evidence of abundance. Just relaxed. You know you're in the right place when you're just relaxed and at peace and chill all the time. Because you realize, well, there's nothing wrong. It's all good. And the more you're freaking out all the time, anxious, the more you're stuck in animalistic consciousness, because animals are always freaking out. That is all they do. They spend their life freaking out, unless maybe I don't know any animal that does not freak out. Maybe a jellyfish. You jellyfish freak out, but God doesn't freak out. So the more you find yourself resting in stillness and relaxed and at ease, the more you know you're on the right path. And the more relaxed you can become, the more effortless life becomes. Because you're not stuck in the psychological drama of striving so much, of trying so hard to get what you want. You're not living in that mode anymore. You're living in God mode. Easy mode. There's hard mode and there's easy mode. And even when you're living in easy mode, you can still do hard things for the enjoyment of it. But when you're in hard mode, you're not enjoying it. You're actively trying to get out of it. You're actively trying to change your environment so you don't suffer so much. But you have to change psychologically in order for your environment to change. Because life is like a mirror. And you can't expect the mirror to smile back at you before you start smiling. So we're living the opposite of the majority. Whereas the majority is pinging off their environment, looking at, okay, what is true in my life right now? How am I going to deal with it? How do I approach this? What do I need to do to escape? That's how most people live. But instead, you drown out the noise of the world. And you go within yourself and you just rest in the present moment. And you begin telling yourself different stories about what you want to be true. So you get some idea of what kind of life you want to live. And then you just start entertaining the information that is aligned with your new world, your new reality. And the more you rest in whatever vibration you want, like I want to be living in lack and scarcity. I want to be living in abundance. There's kind of two parts. Whenever you experience worry or fear about survival or about money or anything like that, you become conscious of it, you become aware of it. And because you've actively decided to change the story, in that moment, you stop yourself from ruminating and you remember abundance. And you can just say, well, what if everything's working out perfectly? What if everything I want is already mine? You have to create the psychological state that makes you feel differently. And you're going to do that however you do that, because your feelings, how you feel, changes who you are. So if you want to, not live in lack and scarcity, you got to feel abundance. And you got to feel abundance by thinking abundance, by focusing on only the information that affirms whatever it is that you want and ignoring everything else. And at first, it's going to be kind of all over the place. Like, I want abundance, but I'm getting trapped in lack and scarcity. I'm feeling a little bit worried. Okay, I'm remembering. Let me relax. Let me just kind of chill out. Maybe you pray to God, whatever you do. And every time you become aware of yourself ruminating on lack and scarcity, you grow a little bit of power to stop the next time. And you just stop, until eventually you become grounded in the new reality and the old reality falls away, because you're no longer feeding it. You're no longer assuming that reality. And you're assuming a new one. And you'll see new situations, new experiences arise in your life. And when those experiences arise, you can make a point to stop, acknowledge that it's working, which will make you feel good. It'll make you feel inspired or motivated, because it's like, oh wow, it's actually changing. And don't waste that moment, because in that moment you have the greatest opportunity to continue reaffirming your new reality. Anytime you feel good, use it as an opportunity to reaffirm the reality that you want. And that's all it is. It's really so simple. It's all about learning how to take your attention away from what you don't want and focus it on what you do want. Now, that doesn't mean toxic positivity. It means that you learn how to transmute the darkness into light, the negativity into positivity. And you'll realize that it is the problems and the struggles that you go through that are not the obstacles to what you want. They are the pathway through. They're leading you to what you want. But because we assume they're roadblocks, they become roadblocks that expand your mind. And when you communicate with God and you develop a relationship, God more easily can communicate with you and say, look, you may be going through some hard times, but this is what you need. And you begin to just trust and have faith that everything you go through is the right thing. So you stop questioning reality. You stop resisting life. And when you're not resisting life, you're in complete harmony and in flow. But how many people are always resisting life? What I want is not happening. And I want what I want to happen. And because it's not happening, I suffer. You're just like, you become so chill. It's like everything is working out perfectly. Not another thought is needed. So it's this process of continuously just shedding all the fat, all the fatty, all the extra stuff, all the noise, and getting down to the fundamental layers, the few things that really matter, and living from that state, and becoming the greatest human ever lived. And you'll see, guarantee you, the people who watch these videos are going to be some of the most successful people in life. Not because I'm so great, it's because you're focusing on the things that actually matter and not on all the distractions. I mean, maybe you got some distractions. It's not the end of the world. You just make conscious notes of like, okay, this is creating suffering in my life. These thoughts, these beliefs, these assumptions, these stories. And I don't want to live that way anymore. I want to be free. I want to have peace. I want to be in love. And so, now you're clear, a little bit clear about what you want. Now it's just about affirming that reality. And affirming, you're willing what you want into existence through your mind. And you stabilize your energy as you focus on the few things that actually matter. And you become more able to tap into your God power and create any life that you desire, regardless of your external circumstances. So give it a shot. You got nothing to lose. Assume reality. Find God. Clean up some of that mental noise so you can begin tapping into the silence, the stillness. Learn how to not get pulled all over the place by your thoughts and your emotions and your instincts and the world. And wake up to your true identity. Because until you're awake, well, guess what? You're living in darkness, in ignorance, and there will be suffering. Awakening to the true nature of reality is the same thing as becoming free from suffering. Enlightenment. Awakening. Because the true nature of what you are, that is spirit, is already free. Can't read that. The nature of spirit, freedom. Well, at least you can hear the words. Peace, love, joy, abundance. Everything that you're looking for is already within you. As Saint Francis of Assisi said, what you're looking for is already where you are looking from. This whole time you were looking for yourself, reconnecting to spirit, to God. And this is the nature of you, of God. And you kind of just immerse yourself into it, the ocean of God, and, just get drunk on God. Enjoy. Enjoy the freedom, enjoy the peace, the love, the joy. And this is how you know you're on the right path. Follow your bliss. Do more things that you enjoy, that you love. And be kind and compassionate to yourself. Love yourself. Or else I'm going to get out the swords and give you something to love about. I think that makes sense. And leave behind the world of 10,000 things. Because it's endless distraction. And once you find freedom, you can return to the world. But it's no longer the world of 10,000 things. It's just the world of one. There's only God. And God is all you see. And when you and God are the majority, anything is possible. I am Ray, and if you're struggling with your mental health, as I once was, I created a system to set you free from your mind prison. Check it out. See if it's for you. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be